Uh, Good afternoon, dear students. Welcome back to our online session for the course ENM 6112 British Prose. So today we begin with Block 3, which focuses on A.Z. Gardiner, a very uh, significant modern, English essayist. So far, we have discussed Francis Bacon and Charles Lamb. So Bacon taught us wisdom through sharp and philosophical uh, prose, and Charles Lamb also taught us how personal memory and humor and emotions can shape essence. So now, with Gardiner, as a Gardiner, we move into modern processes, right? So Gardiner writes about ordinary life. So when I say ordinary life, he writes about like bosses, trains, dogs, manners, courage. Okay, so and also about aging. And at first, when you look at the the words, right? When you hear the words like bosses, train, dogs, manners, this sounds quite simple, right? But they may seem simple. However, behind these everyday situations, Gardiner discusses ethics, social behavior, and moral responsibility. So the lecture is very crucial for you as MS students, because uh, Gardiner's essays shows how literature can guide how we live in society. His essays are not abstract or theoretical. So they um, are practical, um, relatable, and deeply human. So today's lecture covers from unit 11 to 15, which means there are like 5 essays in total. This we are blocked. Um, so I will try to explain in a very simple way, so that you can understand in a clear so that you understand clearly of all these essays. So now let's move on to the lecture contents. So first, we shall try to revise the previous lectures and focus on today's focus areas, core topics of discussions, and and learning goals. And then we shall discuss the units, the 5 units, unit 11 to 15. Then finally, then assignments. We shall move on to assignment questions, and finally we shall conclude and summarize everything of the these lectures. And then we shall also slightly talk about next topic discussions. All right. So now let's move on to the overall structure of previous lecture and today's focus. So as you can see here in the previous lectures, we have completed, one unit, that is South Slam, from unit 6 to unit 10. And today we shall focus mainly on uh, block 3, A.Z. Gardiner, that is from unit 11 to 15. I will come back to this. So now, before that, let's look into the mm, learning goals. What are the objectives and outcomes? So let us now try to clearly now let us now clearly understand the learning goals for block 3 on AZ Gardiner. So the first objectives is to understand the modern prose tradition. Gardiner represents a stage where essays uh, move away from personal memory and become tools to examine social life. So His essays are modern. How? Because they deal with everyday problems faced by like ordinary people. So this in the second objective, you see, it is to analyze social behavior through literature. Gardner, uses simple incident like travels on a bus, catching a train, to discuss deeper issues such as politeness, patience, and responsibilities. So the third objective is to study humor and irony as a tool of criticism. So in his essays, Gardner does not directly attack society in an angry rage, not like that. So instead, he uses mild humor and irony to show people their faults gently. So the fourth objective is to connect literary essays with real life situations. So this is very important. Gardner's essays are not meant to stay inside books or something like that. They are meant to guide how we behave in daily life. All right. So if you keep these objectives in mind while reading, Gardner's essays will feel meaningful and practical, not difficult at all or abstract. Now, what are the learning outcomes? So first, you should be able to explain Gardner's ideas clearly clearly, whether for example to your colleagues, classmates, or something, right? So his ideas are simple, but you know as I said, your answers when it comes to exam, your answers should be able to it should be like structured and thoughtful, right? Since you have a clear knowledge about this, so your answers in exam should be very much structured and thoughtful. So second, you should be able to critically analyze Gardner's essays using examples. This means uh, uh, referring to incidents, characters, or situations from the essays while explaining the main themes. Uh, then you should be able to compare, Gardner with other essays like Bacon and Lamb. For example, uh, Bacon is philosophical and aphoristic, and Lamb is personal and emotional. But Gardner is social and ethical. This comparison is very important, as you study, essays. Okay, so fourth, outcome is you should be able to uh, apply Gardner's ideas to contemporary society. For example, politeness in public life, courage in speaking truth, or anxiety in modern travel are still relevant even today. So if you can do these things, you will not only score good marks in an exam, but also develop mature understanding of English prose. Okay, so now let's briefly revise what we have understood, what we have learned from the previous lectures. Only then we can, then we will move on to SG Gardner. We have to know how it shifts, it changes from essayist to essayist, right? How we move from essayist to essayist. So this will make this will actually give you more clear understanding rather than confusion. So now let's try to briefly recap block 2, what where we discussed Charles Lamb. So Charles Lamb was what? Who was Charles Lamb? He was a personal essayist. His essays were based on memory, emotion, and personal experience. So we discussed essays such as um, All Fool's Day, Imperfect Sympathies, Valentine's Day, The Praise of Chimney Sweepers, and a bachelor's complaint of the behavior of married people. So here His essays were quite gentle, emotional, and nostalgic. He often used, the person of Ilya, the pen name, right? The pen name Ilya, to speak about himself indirectly. His humor was soft, and his criticism was never harsh. So the key features of Lamb's writing was emotional intimacy. He made readers feel close to him, like a friend sharing thoughts. Now, as we move to A.Z. Gardner, uh, you should clearly note this change. Gardner does not focus only on personal memories. Instead, he focuses on society, public life, and moral behavior. So this shift from Lamb to Gardner marks an important step in the development of English prose. So what is exactly the shift from Lamb to Gardner? So Lamb writes mainly about himself. His essays are private and personal ones. Gardner, on the other hand, writes about society. His essays are, public, social, right? Lamb's, essays belong to the romantic tradition, where emotion and memory are central. Gardner's essays belong to the modern tradition, where social responsibility and ethics are central. In Lamb, we see nostalgia and a personal feeling. In Gardner, we see moral reflection on everyday life. So, for example, Lamb may write about festival or a personal dislike. Gardner writes about politeness in public, courage in daily life, and uh, human vanity. Okay, so this shift is very important for a very important, right, as a whole. Okay, so they may for example, let's say in your exam, you may be asked to compare, Bacon, Lamb, and Gardner. So this lecture gives you the core idea of this, of the comparison, contrast. All right. So now Gardner actually represents a more forward essays that educate society, not just express feelings. Now we shall see Gardner as a modern essayist. All right. So how is a modern essayist? Because he writes about ordinary incidents. He does not choose grand topics. He writes about buses. I have already said in the earlier, like talks, trains, and aging. But behind this simple, I know, ideas, subjects, he presents deep moral lessons. One of the important features of Gardner's writing is that he avoids heavy philosophy. His language is simple, clear, and conversational. So, uh, this makes his essays accessible to common readers. Okay, so not only scholars. So it is also very much easily accessible to common readers. So Gardner uses everyday situation to teach uh, social values such as politeness, right? Politeness, courage, kindness, and self-awareness. So he believes that small actions shapes society. His humor is gentle and thoughtful, not cruel, and his and he criticizes human weakness, but he also believes in human goodness. Okay, so uh, Gardner essays shows faith in ordinary people and ordinary decency. That is why his essays remain relevant even today. That's why we are still studying his essays even now. So, as a students, as a students of English literature, you should learn to appreciate or Gardner as a writer who brings ethics into everyday life through literature. All right. So now let's move to unit 11, that is same place. So this is an essay. So in this essay, Gardner discusses the importance of politeness and good manners in public life. So he bases the essay on a simple incident involving a bus conductor. So the conductor is very efficient. He does not, he does his job quickly and correctly. However, he is rude and unkind to passengers. So Gardner uses this incident to make a powerful point. Gardner argues that efficiency without courtesy is incomplete. A person may do their duty well, but if they lack politeness, society becomes unpleasant. Okay, so according to Gardner, words like please and thank you are not small or useless. They are essential for social harmony. They create trust, comfort, and cooperation among people. So the central idea of this essay is very clear. Manners are not luxury. They are social necessities. Without politeness, public become mechanical and cold. So this essay teaches us that good behavior is as important as professional skill. Okay, so this is all about this essay's saying place. And in the next essay, you'll see about courage. Now, in this, essays, Gardner gives a new definition of courage. Usually, people think courage belongs only to soldiers, right? Warriors or heroes. Gardner challenges this idea, this concept. He says true courage often appears in ordinary life. According to Gardner, courage means, speaking the truth, accepting, responsibility, and standing up against injustice, even when it is difficult. So this kind of courage is quiet and unnoticed. It does not receive medals or praise, but it is more difficult than physical bravery. So Gardner believes that moral courage requires strength of character. It demands honesty, patience, and self-control. So through this essay, Gardner encourages readers to recognize courage in daily actions, such as like admitting mistakes or defending what is right. Okay, so the message of the essay is quite clear. Moral courage is more valuable than physical bravery. So this essay actually helps us reflect, our own behavior and choices in everyday life. So now in the next uh, essay, you'll see about all about a dog. What exactly it is? All about a dog. So this essay looks simple at first, right? But it carries a deeper emotional and it carries deep emotional uh, and, uh, and moral, message. So in these essays, Gardner explores the relationship between humans and animals, especially dogs. Uh, the dog in this essay symbolizes loyalty, affections, trust, and innocence. Uh, Gardner describes how humans often show impatience, selfishness, or pride, while animals, especially dogs, shows unconditional love. Right. So through this contrast, Gardner quietly criticizes human behavior. So the essay uses humor and emotional. Uh, sorry. The author, the essay, this essay uses, humor and emotion together. So Gardner, makes readers smile, but but he also makes them think about how humans treat animals and each other to each other. So the dog becomes more than an animal. It becomes a moral mirror. By observing the dog's behavior, readers are encouraged to reflect on their own actions and attitudes. So Gardner does not preach or accuse. His tone is warm and humane. Humane means kind. So he believes that animals can teach humans important lessons about kindness and loyalty. All right. So this essay shows gardeners believed that relationships often contain deep truths. That is why the essay remains touching, quite touching, right? And relevant. So in the next essays, uh, you'll see the essay on, the Gardner discusses on catching the train. So this essay is a humorous but sharp commentary on modern life and time pressures. Uh, Gardner, describes how people become anxious and confused while trying to catch trains. They plan carefully, check the time, rush to platforms, and still end up missing trains. Right? So, through this everyday experience, Gardner mocks the human belief in complete control. People think that strict planning and punctuality can control life, but life often refuses to cooperate. So the essay satirizes the mechanical nature of modern life, where people are ruled by clocks and schedules. Instead of enjoying the journey, people become stressed and impatient. Gardner Gardner's humor here is very effective. Readers laugh because they recognize themselves in these situations, right? So the central idea is very clear. Life cannot be reduced to timetable or schedule. Human existence is unpredictable, and trying to control everything leads to frustrations. So these essays teaches us to accept uncertainty and to approach life with humor and patience. All right. So this is all about on catching the train. Next we have the next is we have the last unit 15. The vanity of old age. So this in this essays, A.Z. Gardner examines uh, a very sensitive and universal human issues. How people behave as they grow old. Gardner, observes that many elderly people struggle to accept aging. They still desire admiration, attention, and a sense of importance. So this desire is what Gardner calls a vanity. However, it is important to understand that Gardner does not attack all people. His tone is sympathetic and understanding, not cruel at all. He recognizes, that vanity is not limited to old age. It exists in youth and middle age as well, but it becomes more visible, in old age. So, Gardiner shows how elderly people often speak about their past achievements, compare themselves with younger people, or resist change. So these behaviors come from fear of losing relevance and dignity. So the essay encourages readers to reflect on aging with self-awareness and grace. Gardiner suggests that accepting age honestly brings peace, while denial leads to frustrations. So this essay is deeply humane. It seeks readers to treat aging not as a weakness, but as a stage of life that requires understanding, humility, and wisdom. Okay, so now let's move on to the next topic, that is common themes in Gardner's essays. What are the uh, common themes that run through all of A.Z. Gardner's essays? So here are some common themes. So first we see a strong sense of social responsibility. Whether Gardner is writing about politeness, courage, or aging, he is concerned with how individuals affect society. Second, Gardner focuses on moral awareness. His essays encourage readers to reflect on their behavior and choices. Third, uh, Gardner repeatedly explore human weakness and kindness. He recognizes, that people are flawed, but he believes they can improve through awareness and empathy. And fourth point is that Gardner uses gentle satire instead of directly criticizing people. So his humor is never aggressive. It is meant to correct, not to insult. So finally, the last point, Gardner shows a strong faith in ordinary goodness. He believes that small acts of kindness and honesty can improve society. So these themes, unify uh, Gardner's work and make his essays morally meaningful and socially relevant. Okay, so now let's look at the Gardner's style and technique. As you can see here, Gardner's language is very simple, right, and conversational. He avoids complex words and philosophical jargons. So this makes his essays accessible to common readers. He also uses real-life examples instead of abstract ideas. So this helps readers relate to his message easily. So Gardner's humor is gentle and subtle. He uses irony to point out faults without offending readers. So another important style is that Gardner gives moral lessons without preaching. So he persuades through example but not command. So his tone is balanced and humane. He criticizes behavior but not people. So this style makes Gardner a true modern essayist whose works remain relevant and enjoyable. So this is the end of Block 3 A.Z. Gardner's essays. So now let's move on to the assignment questions for the next class. So the first question, asks you to discuss politeness as a moral value in saying please. While answering, focus on social harmony and everyday ethics. The second question asks you to explain Gardner's concept of courage. Here emphasize moral courage and ordinary bravery. And the third question asks you to analyze the symbolism of the dog in All About a Dog. So mention about loyalty, affection, and human weakness. So the fourth question is you have to it asks you to discuss how Gardner criticizes modern life on catching the train. Focus on anxiety, control, and humor. Okay, so now let's move on to the conclusion and next steps. So so in this block, we have discussed 5 major essays like Saying Please, Of Courage, All About a Dog, On Catching the Train, and The Vanity of Old Age. So although the subject appears essays appears simple, so each essay actually carries a strong moral and social message. So Gardner shows us that literature does not need grand events to be meaningful. Everyday situations such as riding a bus, owning a dog, catching a train, or growing old can teach us important lessons about human behavior and ethics. So one of Gardner's greatest strengths is his humane outlook. He understands human weakness, but he never become bitter or harsh. Instead, he uses gentle humor and irony to help readers recognize their faults. So we also saw how Gardner represents the modern prose essay tradition, unlike Bacon's philosophical style or Lamb's personal nostalgia. So Gardner's essays are social, ethical, and practical. So through this flow, literature becomes a guide to how we should live together in society. So politeness, courage, kindness, patience, and self-awareness are shown as essential values. Right. So as a MS students of English or MS students of English literature, you should now be able to explain Gardner's ideas clearly, right? And relate them to contemporary life. Okay. So now with this we completed the block 3 of ENM 6112 British prose. So far we have discussed 3 major essayists. Were they? Francis Bacon, Charles Lamb, and A.Z. Gardner. So Each writer represents a different stages in the development English in the development of English prose. So Bacon teaches wisdom through concise thought, right? Uh, Lamb expresses emotion and personal memory, and A.G. Gardner connects literature with social responsibility and everyday ethics. So in the next lecture, that is the last block of this, course ENM 6112 Bridges Prose. That is uh, Bertrand Russell's, a philosopher and prose writer known for clarity, logic, and social criticism. So his essays will again offer a new style and new perspective. So please before the next session, please go through the units, prescribed units, right? So that you understand you know the discussion more deeply and more clearly. Okay. So with this, we conclude today's lecture. Thank you so much. See you in the next class.